7 days for under $10 a day. There are 2 college football games Tuesday night, 4 NFL and 2 college football games on Thanksgiving, 16 college football games on Black Friday, plus a full Saturday and Sunday of college football and NFL action. Add in any NBA, college basketball, and NHL action, and it's an awesome week of sports. We are so very thankful that you are current or maybe a new client of WagerTalk, and we want to give you our best once-a-year price for a 7-day all-sport, all-access package. Enjoy the holiday with family and friends, and don't worry about missing plays throughout the week if you're traveling. That's right, only $69 for 7 full days of college football, NFL, NBA, college hoops, NHL, and any other plays your favorite capper releases. Happy Thanksgiving and safe travels for those hitting the road from our WagerTalk family to yours.
Welcome into the best damn college football show out there, part of the WagerTalk College Football Today. On the WagerTalk YouTube channel, I am Drew Martin, joined by Ralph Michaels and Robbie Veno. We're breaking down 4 games, 4 really good games, guys. We got it jam-packed for you. First up here, Ralph Michaels. Follow him on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Welcome in, Ralph. Happy rivalry weekend to you.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to all our viewers. Please have a safe and great day tomorrow. It's a great weekend of football. And, there's only one thing to promote, Drew, and that's $69 for 7 days. I actually have a 5% NBA play-up. So if you're watching this live or streaming this on Wednesday, make sure you jump in today and add that play. $35 for one play or $69 for 7 days all sports. I think even Rob Veno can answer which is the better deal.
Rob Veno, happy Thanksgiving to you, buddy.
It doesn't feel like it. I'm getting tossed all over the place here today. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Glad to be here. This, particularly this show. For those who don't know, this show was an idea born from the COVID spring that Drew and I just hit the ground running, and Ralph brought Ralph in, and since then it's one of my favorite segments to do each and every week. So hopefully, once again, the 4 games we're going to discuss, we can get you guys to the cashier's window with a couple of these, or at least give you something information-wise that you didn't know before you tuned in.
Well said, Robbie Veno. We got pens ready, and we got games to break down, starting with Bedlam, Oklahoma State. We saw the Cowboys open up -3.5-point favorites at home. We're seeing mostly -4s here, Ralph. 49.5 being the total, 7:30 prime time on Saturday. Possible college football playoff berth on the line for Oklahoma State. Of course, Oklahoma has kind of dominated this series, but the Cowboys looking strong now with that defense. What are you thinking in Bedlam on Saturday?
Well, Drew, you mentioned the defense. You guys might think I'm high or perhaps drunk, but to me, on the eye test, Oklahoma State's defense looks almost as good as Georgia's to me. I mean, it is just dynamic. And the stats don't lie. They've held each of their last 4 opponents to a season low. That is complete domination. When you hold Kansas to 143, West Virginia to 133, TCU to 335, and Texas Tech to 108 yards, your defense is absolutely lights out. You look at Oklahoma, 9 straight covers have gotten us to this position. Oklahoma State, 9 straight covers to get here. There's only one way I would play the game as OSU. You're talking about the best or the second best defense in the country with an offense that's clicking against an Oklahoma team that is still struggling. If you look at their numbers and I tell you, well, they're gaining 175 yards and 5.3 rushing, and they're passing for 70%, you would think that's wow, but we expect more than 442 yards from this Oklahoma team. And more importantly, they've played 3 true road games. What did they do? They went to Kansas State. They were an 11.5-point favorite to Kansas State. They got outgained by 28 yards. They went to Kansas. They were a 38.5-point favorite. Guess what? They got outgained by 14 yards. They get a Baylor. They're a 4.5-point favorite. Guess what? you got outgained by 153 yards. If you've gotten outgained as an average of a 20-point favorite on the road, and now you're a dog against the best defense, there's only one way I can go. The trouble is this. It is a rivalry game that's been dominated by the other team, and this team is now coming up to this class. So clear lean to Oklahoma State, not going to make it to my best bet board with the line being where it is.
Ralph, I agree with your analysis, man. That was good analysis. I don't think you're high or drunk, but if you were, hey, that's it's all good, man. I think this will be a good game, though, Robbie. -4 with Oklahoma State. That's the side I'm looking at as well, man. I agree with a lot of what Ralph said. I think this is the second best defense in the country. I guess we'll find out a lot more on Saturday. What are you thinking in Bedlam, Robbie?
I think Ralph is getting back at me for taking up so many of his notes in past weeks, because you see me over here just checking things off as he was saying them. He made a lot of the points I would make. I can emphasize a couple of them. This Oklahoma Sooners offense, the top Big 12 defenses that they've played so far this year, they went to Baylor. They gained 260 total yards. That was 181 off their season average. Baylor ranks number 2 in the league. They went to Kansas State, number 3 in the league. They were held to 49.5 yards below their season average. They went to Iowa State, held to 136 yards below their season average. And then West Virginia, the 5th-ranked defense in the conference, they play them at home, and they lose, or they go under their season average total yardage by 128.5. That's 3 games against 3 of the top 5 defenses where they were held over 100 yards less than their season average. They just don't have the dynamic offense that they've had in past years. Yes, they make some flash plays. We saw Caleb Williams run 74 yards on kind of a desperation scramble last week. But consistently throughout games, you watch enough of Oklahoma, and you just don't see that dynamic type offense throughout 60 minutes. Caleb Williams, I would question here, guys. I mean, this is Bedlam, his very first Bedlam, and it just happens to be in Stillwater. Is he really ready for this setting? I mean, he's been good, but we've seen him improvise a lot. We've seen him get away with being reckless a lot, and I don't know that that's going to work against this defense. Ralph pointed out a lot of numbers with this Oklahoma State defense. They're just terrific. I'll add one more to it. They've got 41 sacks. Oklahoma's given up 9 in the last 2 weeks. So that matchup isn't great. Pass protection for Oklahoma in this game. The first half numbers, I'll point these out for guys who bet first halves. Oklahoma State, Ralph mentioned they're 9-0, or 9-0 in their last 9 games, but they're 8-1 in their last 9 first halves. And the average score at halftime in the last 9 Oklahoma State games is 20-7. So, they've only given up 43 total points in the first half in their 8 Big 12 games. That's like 5 a game in Big 12 action. So I think along the same lines as you guys, I like Oklahoma State. I've already bet Oklahoma State. I don't know that when we talked back in August that we would have expected them to be the favorite in this game, but here we are. And I think now we know that when you're searching for a defensive coordinator, the place to go is Duke, because that's where Jim Knowles came from. And he's done a fantastic job with this Cowboys defense.
He absolutely has. And
Rob
it even shows towards Duke's side, too, dropping off. Go ahead, Ralph.
Rob mentioned the Oklahoma State sacks at 41, which is a 12.8%, which is incredible. And that's counting 3 games ago. They played Kansas. They held Kansas to 143 yards. They rushed 3 guys the whole game. They didn't even have any sacks. They just didn't even have to worry about playing that type of defense. So those sack numbers could be 5 or 6 higher and put them in incredible stratosphere.
Yeah, good point there, Ralph. Guys, we got Bedlam. Now we're moving on to the Iron Bowl. So 2 big games to start us off here, Robbie Veno. We get 54.5 being the total. We're seeing Alabama minus 19.5 right now. Also, the total's been bought up to about 56 at most shops. Looking at the WagerTalk odds screen here, Robbie. CBS 3:30 on Saturday, Alabama and Auburn. What are you thinking in the Iron Bowl?
The more I look at it, Drew, the more I like over. Now, the game's been pushed up. I think it opened 54.5. We're looking at 55.5, even some 56s out there last time I looked earlier today. But I think I agree with it. And I'll tell you what, I would probably be all in on over in this game if I had enough confidence that TJ Finley, the quarterback for Auburn, could do what KJ Jefferson did for Arkansas last week. Last week, without the help of a running game, because Alabama, the fifth-rated run defense in the country, shut down the Arkansas run attack. But without that, KJ Jefferson throws for 358 and leads his team to 35 points. They get 0 in the first quarter, and then all of a sudden, they found vulnerabilities in that secondary. And, KJ Jefferson is not even the most accurate passer, in that division. And yet he was able to find enough holes to get to 35 points. If I thought TJ Finley could replicate that, like I say, I'd be all in on this total. I think he can do some of that, but I don't have that type of faith in him. But I think if he does do just some of that, guys, figuring that they'll be in chase mode for some of this game and figuring that they'll probably get 12 possessions in this contest, I think he can get 3 touchdowns against that Alabama pass defense. So with that being said, I would need 35 out of Alabama, 38, I guess, to be safe. And I don't know why we don't get that. I'll leave you these numbers. Auburn against SEC West teams plus Georgia. They had the misfortune of drawing Georgia from the SEC East this year. But in those 6 games, 5 SEC West teams and Georgia, that Auburn defense has been lit up. 435 total yards per game on average, and they give it up both ways. They'll give it up on the ground. They'll give it up through the air. Alabama does both. They'll probably take advantage of both. Against Georgia, Arkansas, and A&M, all 3 of those teams ran it for over 200 yards against this Auburn defense. The other 3 games in that mix are LSU, Mississippi State, and Mississippi. All 3 of those teams threw it for over 300 yards. So it really doesn't matter. Auburn's vulnerable at all levels. We saw last week Bryce Young's little coming out party. We saw Alabama have their top receiver be a gift from Ohio State. Goodness, if Ohio State ever had all 4 of those guys, it would be crazy. But Alabama looks to be able to get their way to 38 points against this defense, guys. Every team in the SEC West plus Georgia has done a good job offensively against them. I think that Auburn, again, will have enough in the tank or in comeback mode to get this thing over. And if it ends 38-21, I mean, I was asked earlier today, if you feel that way about Alabama's offense, how come you're not just playing them minus 19? But again, just listening to what I said there, if it winds up 38-21, you still don't cover. And this series has produced enough wacky things to probably not want to lay 19 on my end. So I think over is the right way to go here. Weather's good, 45 to 55 degrees, no real wind to speak of. I think 7 was the max wind miles per hour. So give me over in this game, Drew. If you can get the 55.5, get it. I think it's probably going to rise a little bit more. So I'll look to play over.
Sure. Beautiful day on the plains. Nice setting here in Jordan-Hare. Ralph, to throw a little bone here towards the Auburn Tigers, maybe the only stadium Nick Saban is under 500 as head coach for Alabama. Robbie spoke to, the wild things that have happened in this series. However, Auburn has not looked good the last 3 games here, Ralph. You think they can hang within 3 touchdowns? What's your view of the Iron Bowl?
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected Auburn to be 6-5 at this point. So, why is Nick Saban under 500? Well, the home team has covered 5 straight in the series, and the home team has gone 8-1 ATS the last 9. But am I betting the home team? No. Am I betting Bama? No. And it's going to be simple for me. There's times that you break down games and you look up matchups, and scheduling is more important than the game. If Bama gets a big lead, yeah, you know what? You might say, there might be some people say, oh my God, Ohio State jumped them. They dropped down in the polls. They need a feel-good win to get back and make sure the committee loves them. No, they don't. You got Georgia next week. If Alabama has a 24-point lead in the fourth quarter, they are freaking going to run the ball, pull guys out, and be ready for Georgia and make yourself you're 100% healthy. This game means shit, except you got to win the game. Next week means everything. If I were doing anything on this game, it would be Bama first half and then expecting them to take the gas off.
Okay, I get that, right. And what about the people that might say, Alabama with a close loss to Georgia, a 2-loss Alabama gets into the playoffs? I mean, I wouldn't like to see that personally, but do you think that then the score kind of matters here?
We're playing semantics because we're playing a what if and a what if. I'll say this. I think the committee, by dropping Alabama down, made the point that if they lose to Georgia, they're out. It's not like you're second and you're close. You know where they are now because they dropped down and since he's closer. So, hey, to me, if they lose to Georgia and Oklahoma State dominates Oklahoma and wins again next week, my eye test would say Oklahoma State over Alabama. So, again, I'm not the committee and I don't know. That's just my feelings.
Sure. Absolutely. I agree with you. I think a lot of people out there agree with you. However, Alabama's gotten the benefit of the doubt in the eyes of the committee more than once in the past. So, hey, who knows here? But great analysis here, guys, on the Iron Bowl. It will be a fun one. We got 2 games left, also simultaneously going. Hopefully you got more than one TV, 3:30 on Saturday. Penn State at Michigan State. We're seeing a pick'em price. Some shops here, Ralph, showing the Nittany Lions -1 point road favorites, 51 being the total in East Lansing. And, of course, the Land Grant Trophy on the line. What are you thinking, Nittany Lions and Spartans, Ralph?
Thank God that you told us what the trophy was called, Drew. I was so worried that you were going to ask me what it was. So I appreciate that. And let me ask this. Who the hell doesn't have more than one TV nowadays? It's like their batteries, Black Friday sale. Buy a battery, get a free TV. So, it's interesting. You look at Michigan State. They come in 8-2. You look at Penn State. Penn State has lost 4 out of the last 6. So clearly, my thought is Michigan State is the hotter team. But to me, when I look at that team and what I watched with Ohio State in that game, I think that game's going to cost them 2 losses. Getting punched in the mouth like you do, going down 48-0 at the half, not having a chance, having Walker run a handful of times, then not letting him play either because he was banged up or they just wanted him healthy or there was no read to risk him. I truly believe that Michigan State loss was one of those teams that are going to lose you 2 games moving forward. The offense hasn't been the same. You look at them and they have some big performances and poor performances. But, when you go to Indiana and you gain 241 yards and then you go to Purdue, yeah, they had 458 yards. But 458 yards when you're trailing big is so much different than 458 yards in a close game. Even though Penn State, again, has lost 4 out of the last 6, we know now that there's an extension. I don't know if it's finalized or yet, but James Franklin, no one has to worry. He's not going to USC. He's here. He's in for the long haul. I think he's the type of motivating coach that coming off that 28-0 win against Rutgers, coming off that tough Michigan loss, and the week before they won at Maryland, they could get enough done. I mean, John Clifford on the year, a 17-6 ratio, and the rush defense holding teams to 3.4 yards per carry. We know Michigan State has to run the ball to be successful. Penn State's defense good enough to shut them down. I like the Nittany Lions.
Liking the Nittany Lions on the road. All right, good stuff, Ralph. And Robbie, what are you thinking here? Land Grant Trophy, Michigan State, and Penn State.
I think I've done enough shows with you, Drew, to know never doubt you and rivalry games. You know every trophy of all of these rivalry games. I've done enough work with you now to know that. So thanks for getting the audience involved with the Land Grant here. And again, I'm going to second what Ralph's saying, and I'm going to pile on and add to it. The James Franklin deal, I have to tell you, living in this area, I didn't expect it. The fan base doesn't care for him. The media is harsh on him. I think because he fights back an awful lot. but the administration loves him. And let's see if his stability now, 10 years, takes effect right away in this game. Kids know that they're going to play for this guy. I mean, there's always a way out of a contract, but maybe it does more harm than good, or more good than harm here in this case. It's not a real reason why I like Penn State. You have to look at Michigan State's focus here. Ralph talked about this maybe costing them 2 games. This is a senior day for Michigan State, season home finale. Mel Tucker is really trying to rally the troops, trying to rally the fans. He wants to create a great atmosphere for senior day. I think he probably will. I don't know that it's going to help, though. The reason why you have to like Penn State here, in my eyes, is the amount of injuries on this Michigan State team. This team is battered right now. Probably could be, I will say most likely, without both of their top receivers, right? Jalen Naylor didn't play last week. He was at practice this week in sweatpants, not necessarily going. Jaden Reed got hurt last week, was in a walking boot after the game. Those 2 guys, 78 receptions, 1,444 yards, 13 TDs. And we saw what happened in the second half when neither of them was on the field to that Michigan State passing game. It's just not the same. I want to read you a quote from Mel Tucker, the head coach of this team. This happened in preseason camp. Here's what he told his team. He said, the good news is we have enough guys to compete. The bad news is we lack the depth required. And right now they're in that boat where he's using all the key phrases. Oh, it's next man up. We have to have these guys ready. All the stuff you hear coaches say all the time. But here's a coach who knows he lacks quality depth. Michigan State, Ralph talked about nobody thought Auburn would be 6-5 right now. Less than nobody thought Michigan State would be where they are right now. And I would have to assume from that quote that their head coach didn't even expect them to be where they are right now. They've done a lot with let's just say they don't have the numbers in talent, quality talent that a lot of the Big Ten does. So good coaching job by him. Kenneth Walker did play on a bad ankle last week. Maybe he goes here. I think he will. But to Ralph's point, if Penn State, if their run defense shuts down the Michigan State ground attack like we saw Ohio State do last week, then it's probably curtains for that offense because we've seen this. We saw it last week, second half. They just can't go anywhere if they can't run the football, and especially without their top 2 guys on the perimeter. For Penn State, they did have the one mirage game where they gave up 357 rushing yards to Illinois. But other than that, they're only allowing 108 per game. So they probably have the goods to stack the box, shut down the run, and see what Michigan State can do from there. I don't think it'll be much. And then, of course, I'm not going to say that this trio of wide receivers is Ohio State's because they're not and nobody is. But it's a real good trio of wide receivers for Penn State. Jahan Dotson's going to play in the NFL. Parker Washington's really good. Keandre Lambert-Smith. These guys have 194 receptions and 15 TDs. Or excuse me, they get 194 receiving yards a game, and they have 15 TDs. So that 130th ranked pass defense is in for trouble again here. Clifford is free of the COVID illness now. Been practicing pretty well this week. I just think Penn State's the right side here for a lot of reasons, especially the injuries to Michigan State. I mean, the head coach lists them as significant injuries on both sides of the ball. And when you go read the list, they're at every level. I don't care if it's offensive tackle, defensive tackle, cornerback. They've got injured starters everywhere. Either they'll play hurt or they won't play at all. I think that's a good reason to buy on Penn State here at this price.
Sure, looking towards the Nittany Lions there, Robbie. And guys, we do have one game left. And Robbie, thanks for the props on the rivalry weekend. I've been doing my work here to know them all. So hopefully this helps somebody out there. But Robbie, it's a good lead into this next one because, hey, Google couldn't help me out here. Couldn't find a trophy or a rivalry name for the next one. But we're heading to the Big 12, Kansas State versus Texas. We're seeing the Texas Longhorns opened up -2. We're seeing them now -3 at most shops. Looking at the WagerTalk odds screen, 52.5 here, Robbie. This is 12 noon on Friday, guys. So the day after Thanksgiving, little Friday college football action here. The Longhorns and Kelly and Vegas's Kansas State team. What are you liking here, Robbie?
Yeah, in local time, they'll kick off at 11 a.m., so it is an early start. Central weather should be good. This is probably the game out of the 4 that we've had here today, guys, where I have the least opinion on this particular game. Don't know which way to lean. I mean, my immediate knee-jerk reaction was I have to play Kansas State. Probably still should, just to fade Texas. They're 0-6 against the spread in their last 6. We know they don't play defense well. They've got a split quarterback situation here with Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. Neither one played well last week. Card goes 10 of 16, 123. Thompson 4 of 14, 29 yards passing. Seems like he's fallen off a cliff here because he was really good to start the season, like was the rest of the Texas team. You know, the loss of Bijan Robinson at running back I thought was going to be a big deal. It doesn't really turn out to be a big deal. They ran it really, really well against West Virginia, a good rush defense last week. They get 203 yards. They get 7.3 a pop. But it still didn't really help. You know, they can't throw it, guys. I just gave you the quarterback numbers. So they only wind up gaining, I think, 355 in that game total yardage-wise. And if that's all they can gain, they're not going to win a lot of games because that defense is not good enough to prevent the other side from scoring. Kansas State certainly has a defense in West Virginia's class, if not a little bit better. So it's going to be tough, to me at least, for Texas to get any traction in this one. It's a big game for them. I mean, Steve Sarkisian's head is already on the chopping block. They're 2-. If they lose this game, they finish 2-7 in the Big 12. That's probably a bigger embarrassment than anything they've been through in the last 5-6 years. They'd be 4-8 overall if they lose here. Just not sure it matters because I don't know that they're good enough to beat Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State is so fundamentally sound, never pretty, but always effective. They were on a 4-game ATS win streak until last week. Tough loss to Baylor. I think there's a lot of money on K-State there too, but Baylor had them from the opening kickoff really in that one. I think that Kansas State's probably the right side, but I don't have any conviction in that. Maybe +3 is the right side, guys. Maybe Ralph has a better opinion than I do.
Sure, Ralph. I mean, tough to bet on Texas right now, this losing streak, like Robbie touched on. It would be Kansas State or pass for me, but maybe you can talk us off of that, Ralph.
Well, Drew, on every game on the board, we talked about it. You know, when a team's playing as bad as they are down the stretch, to me, it's pass or play the opponent, period. Granted, if Texas look good and win the game, that's fine. I'm not betting on them. You guys talked about how early the start is, 11 a.m. Good thing we're not talking about San Diego State and Boise. They play at Aztec Stadium, and they start at 9 a.m., guys. That Boise-San Diego State game kicks off at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And make sure you get there early because the first 10,000 people get a mini Aztec Stadium replica. So breakfast in San Diego if you're on the West Coast. You know, I talked about Michigan State. I think their game last week will cost them a game. Close your eyes and picture this. You're Steve Sarkisian. You took over Texas. Yes, you lost to Arkansas, but you're 4-1, and you have a 38-20 lead against Oklahoma. I mean, could you ask for anything better than that? What happened since then? They lose to Oklahoma. They lose. They lose. They lose. They lose. They lose. I mean, to have this team where they started to be one of the favorites in the Big 12, have a 38-20 lead, have a 4-1 record, and then get outgained against Oklahoma State, get outgained by 45 yards to Baylor, get outgained by 269 yards to Iowa State, lose to Kansas, and lose to West Virginia. You know, I don't even know. I normally give a first-year head coach the benefit of the doubt. And I could have seen them, you know, at 4-5 after a loss saying, okay, guys, we got Kansas. We just got to win 2 more to get to a bowl. But to me, I just can't see any motivation out of this. So I did not get to the Kansas State side, but it's simple. when a team is on this type of downfall, getting beat, failing to cover, getting outgained, making mistakes, where the turnover battle, last 4 games, -1 even, -1, -4, -1. That's just the mental part of it. And when a team perhaps is banged up, not playing well physically, not playing well mentally, it's Kansas State or pass for me. I'm not getting to the Kansas State side, but if you forced me to take a lean, absolutely only one way I would go.
Okay, I like it, Ralph. And you know what? That 9 a.m. kick in Boise State, Sandy, I thought that was a misprint, Ralph. I really did. Yeah, I thought it would be 12.
Nope.
It's really 9 a.m. Wow.
They're kicking off at 9 a.m. Them and probably 17 of their closest friends, so.
That's amazing. Does that make you think under or what? I mean, because that makes me think like a slow start from something. Maybe there'll be a little angle here for sports bettors. Anything that comes to mind real quick for you?
I don't know. We're guessing because there's nothing we can look at. I know San Jose State played Fresno State for like a pajama game. They started at 8 a.m. about 3 or 4 years ago. But, because it's such a unique setting, I would have to think this. If I'm tuning in, I think a team that comes out more motivated early, I would look to live bet them because I think there'll be a significant difference for like the first half if you can watch the pregame, if there's TV coverage of that. But I don't want to guess and try to come up with a scenario without any data to be able to back it.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting scenario. And Robbie, I saw you with your pen up there, man. I'll throw it over to you. Final thoughts on this, final thoughts for the show, and if you got a best bet, buddy.
Final thought on this particular subject is that we do have something we could reference immediately because Boise State was in this situation in September. They went to Utah State and played a 10 a.m. game.
Yeah.
In Utah Mountain Time. They won that game 27-3. There were a lot of yards gained. It was kind of a statistical anomaly because Utah State gained about 440 and only scored 3 points up and down the field and missed a lot of field goals, just couldn't score, turned it over on downs. But Boise has been in this situation, which is good for their team because they'll know how to prep for it. There's no question. We prepped for it once and we won a game by 24. We know how to prep for it again. So maybe there is an advantage toward Boise State in that game.
Okay, fair enough there, Robbie. And I guess, Ralph, do you have any final thoughts for the show? Maybe a most confident play, a best bet? Anything in closing?
To me, it's Penn State. I think the Lions handle business. Again, it comes down to the eye test. What I saw Michigan State was from after 2 series, they were a defeated team. And it's tough to turn that around when, Walker's not listed on the injury report. I don't know if he's hurt or not, but without any receivers and even a dinged up Walker, Penn State to me is a team that I think even though they finished so poorly, there's more positivity out of that than there is the Michigan State team because the Michigan State team had all these incredibly high hopes after not expecting anything, then losing the Michigan game the way they did and then the Ohio State game they did, they realize where they are now. So Penn State for Thanksgiving weekend for moi.
All right, good stuff, Ralph. And guys, I'm going to go with the Oklahoma State Cowboys -4 over Oklahoma. One of the best defenses in the country, probably second behind Georgia. I think they hold this Sooner offense at bay. So, guys, I'm going with the Cowboys. Mike Gundy, the mullet, the whole bit, -4 in Stillwater in Bedlam. So, for Ralph Michaels, Robbie Veno, I am Drew Martin. Guys, it's been fun, and we'll be back for Championship Saturday, so come back and join us. Best damn college football show. Best of luck with your bets. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in.
A Black Friday quiz, which is better? 1, paying $349 for a 1-month all access, or 2, paying $244.30 for 1 month all access. The day after Thanksgiving, we want to continue giving thanks by giving all of our customers 30% off anything priced at $149 or more. A Black Friday sale was always a once-a-year chance to buy something at big discount, and this is it. Even better, we are running this promotion Black Friday through the end of Cyber Monday and making coupon code THANKS30 have unlimited uses. Whether it's a single sport package, a 30-day all access, a full season of college hoops, or a full 12 months from your favorite handicapper, you will save 30% with coupon THANKS30. You can fill your goodie bag as many times as you want until the clock strikes midnight on Monday.